When these buildings open, they have an incredible impact on people and cities. And I think you'd be very hard pressed to find another building that people enjoy going to more than these buildings. David Manica of Manica Architecture, president and owner.
Will Hahn, I'm a principal and the technical director at Manica Architecture.
Keith Robinson, I'm a principal and creative director at Manica. I've worked for David for just over 10 years now, straight out of school. So I've had the great fortune to sort of work directly with him and learn from one of the best in the industry.
My firm's different because we focus on the front end design phases of sport and entertainment buildings around the world. We provide design concepts and through design development, and then we always work with a partner architect to execute the construction documents in the CA. One of the reasons I love designing sport and entertainment buildings is because they are so complicated.
If you work with us, that's who you're gonna get. You're gonna get one team that's done every project that we've touched together. Everybody in our studio will touch the project at some point and sort of exercise their own respective superpower, as part of that process.
I always believe that a good designer is a really good listener. The first trick is to sit down and listen to what's important to the client, how they perceive what they want their experience to be, how they perceive, the environment and how the architecture needs to control or direct or respond to that level of importance for them. So once we understand that better, then we can begin to define the way that people experience the game. Some of our current projects are starting off on the right foot, where we're getting hired before we have to do any design competition. And I think that sets up a better dynamic for the success of the project because we get to listen first and we get to design towards their goals and targets, including cost from the very beginning. My preference would be, and what most other industries do, most architecture projects are based on qualifications, interviews, and references. The other thing that I feel really strongly about is looking to other industries to understand how they're changing. For example, the loge seat in Allegiant Stadium was greatly influenced by long-haul business class seats on airplanes. That level of comfort and that level of sophistication absolutely influenced the way we thought about that particular seating type.
That's something I think that's really important, is to not feel like innovation has to be something that's never been done before. But I think we need to be very observant and not be afraid to look at something that's been done and try to think of the next phase of that idea. There's a creative discovery process when you start to look at other industries and try to extrapolate the things about them that you could imagine inside of the venue. In my mind, that's innovation through the iterative process.
Our guests now have a wide variety of experiences, not just in their home stadium, but in stadiums they might visit around the country or around the world. A person that might have just gone to the movie theater on a Saturday night and experienced all the new trends in the movie theater and then come to the stadium and sit there and think, well, why can't the stadium provide me as good of an experience as the movie theater did last night, or vice versa?
At a basic level, when we approach the project, one thing we believe very deeply is that each project is unique to its place, its culture, its people.
When these buildings open, they have an incredible impact on people and cities. And I think you'd be very hard pressed to find another building that people enjoy going to more than these buildings. They bring an incredible amount of joy to people, and it's a thrill to be at the tip of the spear for those projects.
How do we build a partnership at a fundamental level to where they look at us as an extension of them and somebody who has their best intentions in mind? But at the end of the day, they'll have something they're very proud of that not only functions for them at the highest level, but also is a beautiful testament to whatever aesthetic vision they wanted to create in that market.
There are so many stakeholders that are interested in the building. It's the people that are paying for it, it's the people that are building it, and it's the people that are designing it. I think those are the four most important early players at the table.
Sometimes we show up to a project and the owner and the owner state, whoever the stakeholders, right, the relevant stakeholders are, have done a great job doing their due diligence. They have reports. They understand what the market feasibility looks like. They know what has sold well in the past for them and what they maybe should have done more or less of. That's sort of like owner one. And then you have the owner that maybe has done none of that. They don't have a report. Maybe they're a brand new owner to the team, or they just haven't done the due diligence yet. In the prescriptive sort of environment, you have really good walls to work within, right? Sort of like being on a really dense urban site versus being like on the sprawly suburban site with nothing around you. And each has like its benefits. Is just trying to be as creative as possible with the environment that you're making so that you can excite people. Because if you can't make somebody want to come back to your space, then eventually you'll run out of the mass of people that want to use the space.
We do have some really exciting projects on the tables right now. Let's say the proverbial tables. We actually draw on computers now.
Of course, the projects we're most excited to talk about are the projects we can't talk about. They're almost always splashy. It's kind of like falling in love. The next big project, the one that you can't talk about, is the one you're so excited about.
I'm most excited about one in the future for us is that we are, actively working down in Miami for the Inter Miami Football Club. And I think our work and trust that we built with them allowed us to get the job down at Freedom Park. It's a beautiful building. When I think about the future of the seating products and premium specifically, one thing that we've noticed over the past 5 to 10 years especially is that diversity is climbing.
When I started my career in sports and entertainment in 1994, there were basically 3 different seats that you could buy. You could buy a general admission seat, you could buy a club seat, or you could buy a suite. There's a widening of opportunities to buy an experience in the building that is becoming more and more diversified.
The fans are far more diverse now in our mind for what they expect. Now, the expectations in the past were sort of bifurcated into a general seat, a club seat, and a suite. And if you really couldn't swing the next level of that, you couldn't really climb into the next tier. Venues are getting smarter about introducing intermediate tiers for people to really grow into and to maintain that fan base. So just because you can't afford it now doesn't mean you can't afford it next year or maybe the year after that if you want to do it. So they're creating incentives and elevating the experience incrementally. And that's allowing us to see a shift in the industry to where the venues are becoming a lot more dynamic.
Now we have 9, 10, 11, 12 different unique and distinct seating styles and experiences to choose from. And I see that continuing.
It's really about, I think, how we diversify the products inside the building in a way that they're sort of incrementally monetizable. And we think about how those incremental steps can go from a building that has 3 to 5 products to a building that has 20 to 30 products. It can be really simple. It's rethinking the experience. Like, what does the experience of a suite need to be like? Like, you don't have to think you have to think so in the box about how the spaces need to go together. Think about how you really use them. We can look to sort of tech for that, right? Too. Like when you get a new device, they do a fantastic job now boxing it. Like every part of the experience is fantastic. It's not just when you remove your new phone from the box, the way you receive the box, the way the box was packaged, the way it came out, the fact that your phone was charged and you could turn it right on.
The other thing is really the venues, in my mind, are going to have to become more than just a seat. And that's what we see in the generations coming into these things now, is that they're not necessarily concerned with what the seat is. They're concerned with what they get with the seat and when their experience starts, and when does it end. Just observing the fans of the future, how they're behaving. One of the hardest things about these projects is that you're designing a building years ahead of it being built and years ahead of it even being opened, and building in the flexibility for the client to adjust as seamlessly as possible to not take advantage of their initial capital investment.
I thought we did an incredible job sort of breaking the box at Allegiant. Literally speaking, those suites are not rectilinear.
I'm exceptionally proud of how it fits within the Raiders organization. I don't think any other stadium really can claim such specific branding to its team. And when you are in that building, you know that you're with the Raiders. It fits within Vegas. It's a new icon for the city. When I get in the cab and I go down the freeway, and I don't tell anyone who I am, but they talk about the stadium and how proud they are about it. Of course, I was happy to be leading the design of that project. And finally, it was delivered on time and under budget.
We've now recently been asked to come back in there and take a closer look, if you will, on a new seating product that enhances their ability to sell one-off VIP experiences, throughout the course of the year. So that entire effort has been really nice to sort of open a building, with a very successful premium mix already. And already within the 1.5 to 2 years that it's been online, to have built in the flexibility in the building from day one to then come back after understanding the market and what that building and that tenant needs to then strategically go back in and add another layer of premium into the building has been a lot of fun for us.
We thought about the suites a little bit differently, again, inspired by business class seats on airplanes. And it's thinking about the volume that you can create for someone in a more three-dimensional way. So we thought about the suite in the same way. And what would happen if we pushed and pulled the walls so that where you took from one suite, you gave to the other and vice versa. And we were able to eliminate the idea of four walls and a ceiling, literally what has been forever called the suite box. And we dissolved that box entirely and created a more unique environment inside where we pushed into one suite became a seating bench and a lounge area, and where we took from a suite became the drink area and the layout area for food and the TV monitor location.
The suite product at Allegiant is unique because not only is the interior space a little bit different than most, we looked at the dividing walls between the suites and we pushed them in motion to create more of an interesting volume of space inside the suite itself. And that helped organize a nice lounge space or a nice harvest table space, depending on what the client wanted, and had a prominent head wall that faced that. So it created more of a room atmosphere, with one minor tweak to the equation. So it wasn't radically innovative. It was just a clever, adjustment to how these things have been done for so long. But it really opened up a brand new way to think about the suite. But then in addition to that, when you step outside of the suite, it was about that sort of elevated F&B experience, creating a social space with action stations and really introducing the culinary success of Las Vegas into the venue that became a game-by-game discovery for the people on that suite level. So it was a really nice comprehensive product. One thing that remains constant is that the schedules continue to get whittled down and compressed and compressed and compressed. And it's required a shift in how these projects are, basically delivered from an integration level to where the design build model, is a much high wire act than, a design bid build. I think the only way that, the industry can really adjust to that is through efficiency. So the more efficient your team is, for example, everybody in our studio touches every project that we do, right? There's no A and a B teams. A tight schedule is starting to feel a little bit bigger to us because we feel like we can reach decisions quicker, we can iterate faster, we can get client feedback quicker, and we can develop design at a higher rate. So I think really the challenge for our industry is to continue to refine our process and our communication with our clients to help them understand what decisions do they have to make immediately, at the beginning of the process that will really prevent them from circling back later on.
The most challenging part of delivering a project of the magnitude that these projects are is the incredible amount of people, the diversity of expectations, of all the different user groups coming together at one time and in one place. It is a puzzle that we have to solve. And I think the reason we work on these kinds of projects is because we love these puzzles, frankly. They're sort of like Tetris in 3 dimensions, right? Where there's blocks that are already existing, there's blocks that are falling, and there's blocks that are in the background that are actually coming forward at you. And you move one block just a little bit and it changes everything.